So, John Peter, when you come in to the Keller Williams office, go up to the second floor. Where are you now? Huh, I wonder if you went too far. It's 59, 15. You can finally see it, it's in front of the office building. On the same side like as the Portugal, right? That side. Maybe you saw my. No, keep going, pass Howard in, you're right. Keep going, pass Howard in. And if you're more walk for the left side, 59, 15. You don't really look for it, you'll see my, okay. And then you can enter up to the second floor. Back.
She's like, today, full time, you know? You get the direct next to mine. But I'm excited because it's on.
But I would share it. It would work in three.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I had my thing up.
On there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not working.
Wow, this is off.
It just goes like.
Oh, okay. I need to turn it off. On this, I don't know how to work this.
It should be coming up, see if you mind, it's not. I tried to.
I am preemptively going to tell you thank you for being here and sharing with us.
You're welcome.
I'm really
Thanks
excited.
for having me.
All right, well, I'll watch it.
I'm so glad you got that one on because I'm used to the glasses off so I can see your stand ups. Don't get it.
Okay. Just do that.
Recording in progress.
Do I need to stop my video or my audio?
Perfect. I didn't want that on.
Just the group?
One more is coming, I see him looking for a spot.
Cool.
Not that you have to wait for me.
No worries. I'm in no rush. I'm here. I'm here for you. We have the second of the year.
Yeah, I'm screen sharing there. So that's on. You guys see that?
Did you find the spot? So it's certainly.
You saying like, oh, you're in the.
Oh, okay. Walking the building, you're on the second floor. Yes. That's it. Okay, but. Everything. So I was subscribed to this.
Is that me? Yeah.
Okay.
It's my wife.
It's like nothing that should happen.
Should I get some? Do you have a question? What's your question? You here to learn about Airbnb investing? Like, that's a good stuff. Everybody says they wish they would have started young. Thank you, my friends.
See, me, I told you to look more like me. You're not old enough to buy it for me. Can help yourself.
I do have a question. Is there something that you have to go through in the county that identifies what can be an Airbnb and not? Or a short-term rental?
Yes, so we'll talk about that. The regulations.
Okay.
The regulation can take place at the county level, it can take place at HOA.
Oh. But what if you don't just have to free it for the fucking water? And it's in an area that you wanna make sure you can do it for
We just have to check.
you. Where do you find this? Is there a website or something?
I would
Well,
yeah,
I just thought maybe if there was some site that you could go to and it was.
we'll talk about that. There is something that gives some indication, but in real estate. But we always want to know the definitive answer. Or we're saying buy something and then other assume use case and then how people use it. It doesn't mean that we're focused.
I was downstairs waiting.
Yeah, you are. said, I think I see it. No.
Men in directions, no offense for women.
I saw the circle 1 minutes ago, then he found this spot, he says, oh, I see it.
I hope it's not a spot, because when I was up there, I had last spot in my life. So here we go. We can also park on the street.
He did find it on the street, yeah. Where are you? There he is. I can say that, because he's my son.
Good. He's like, I'm coming up the stairs.
Alright, so Allie, we'll get to work here.
Yes,
Ready to roll?
yeah, we're good.
Hi, everybody, welcome. My name's Cullen Tate. I had the pleasure of getting introduced to Allie at Family Reunion a few months back from Ryan, who's the OP, Ryan and Joe, your guy. I've been to York a couple of times. I went up the first time about a year and a half ago, and then sort of that's turned into an annual thing. I am an Airbnb investor. I have a portfolio of 10 short-term rentals that I manage with my wife. Through that process, we ended up catching the attention of some friends and family and started to do some coaching. The coaching turned into a presentation at the KW office, which turned into our book, Coach to Coach. I've got copies of this for everyone at the end. This is our blueprint on how we run our portfolio, how we identify properties, all the tools that we use. This is kind of a small, intimate group. So instead of me monologuing for 45 minutes, I'll be providing content. And if it provides a question for you or even a comment for the group, just let's interject and make this early conversation. So we're talking about unlocking the opportunity that exists in short-term rental for yourself and potentially for your clients, right? So, who here has ever thought about having a short-term rental property? Who here has ever been asked about a vacation rental property by a client? Right? So I'm going to equip you today. You are going to be extremely well educated. This is being recorded. Everything that I talk about is in the book. We have a podcast, Coach to Coach podcast. It's free. We just did our 35th or so episode, and all the content is there as well. So you are going to be way ahead of the game in the next 45 minutes than 98% of hosts, current hosts, are in the market. So we're here to talk about real estate. This cabin is the very first short-term rental property that I bought, $160,000 at the time in 2015 or so. This 1,100 square foot cabin pays for this 6,000 square foot house in Potomac. That's my primary residence. So that's the model here. How do you buy an asset that not only pays for itself, but pays for your primary mortgage? You're going to be equipped with that today. You're going to be equipped with that information to take to clients. A client who is maybe considering buying a getaway place, a vacation place, and it not only going to pay for itself, but can pay for their primary mortgage. And that's what we're going to get into today. To go with the long run. So we're here, we're talking about wealth building. And why? We talked about this a little bit before. I talk about wealth building for the purpose of financial freedom, not for the fact of having $2 million in the bank. You're in a desert island. $1 million in a briefcase doesn't do you any good, right? You have to give context to wealth, and to me, it's about financial freedom, and that can be freed all kinds. We did a whole episode on this just a little bit ago. That could be the freedom to not be sweating, closing the next deal, or grinding to find the next deal, or feeling anxious when you're out of the office, not prospecting. It might feel like financial freedom of when can I retire? When can I slow down? Or, how do I travel more? So for me, we talk about financial freedom, acquiring assets to pay for our lifestyle, acquiring assets to pay for things that we need to pay for, like in my case, I go to an expensive private school, and my assets pay for that. So my backstory, I got excited about real estate in high school. And other people probably have a similar story to this. I had two best friends. One's parents had bought this little chalet, little house on the Potomac River, and we would go up there like every weekend and water ski and camp out. And they owned the lot next door to it, and they bought the place for $42,000. My other best friend's parents had a place at the beach, Henlopen, Bethany Beach, and I don't remember what the number was, but it's that same kind of thing. We bought this place for $68,000, and I always stuck with it. Where are those deals for our generation? And that stuck with me from like 16 years old till I was about 48 years old. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've never had a W-2 job. I'm a startup guy. I've started a number of companies, exited some companies. And in 2018, I had a startup with 4 other business partners. It was kind of going okay, and 3 business partners were just done and wanted to be done and dumped the company. We sold the company. It wasn't like a big, equity event. We sold it off. And I'm 48 at the time. My son was 9, 8, no, he was young. Anyway, he's like 9. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go start another startup and grind 40, 50, 60 hours a week? It's not even the time, it's the amount of attention it takes when you're in that kind of startup mode. Some of you guys, there's similarities to real estate, building a team or getting started, right? It's just mental cycles and focus. I just really didn't want to do that. I wanted to be present. I didn't want to be that dad that was never around, was always working. I'm just trying to, make as much money and provide for the family, but never be present, never be there. And I had that little brown cattle that we had bought actually a few years earlier when my son was like 2 or 3, and we just used it as a family getaway. I put that cabin on Airbnb because friends of friends started to want to stay in it. And I famously, when we first bought it, my wife was asked, are we going to put it on Airbnb? And I was like, no, what are we going to make a couple $100 a month? It's not working. We ended up putting it up on Airbnb. It booked every weekend since then, 2015. And so I had that experience. It was making a couple $1,000 a month. And it came to me at that moment that, I've always been curious about real estate, and this place is doing, say $4,000 a month at the time. I can do simple math. I can scale it up. And that summer of 2018, we went out, we bought inadvertently 3. Somebody asked if we buy on market, off market, etc. One was on market. That owner had a second place that wasn't on market, and I was contacted by a wholesaler that same summer. We ended up buying 3 that summer, renovating 2, and the other one, the wholesale one, took a little longer. We waited till. So that's a little bit about my backstory. As a host, we now have 10 properties. We've got over 3,000 reviews. Everything that I'm going to tell you today is exactly what we do to run our business. Ask me any question. How do I find a housekeeper? How do I find a handyman? How do I find a contractor? What do you do about this? How much time does it take? So I'm an open book on the numbers. I'm not going to just sort of talk about generalities. I'm going to tell you exactly what we do. So here's kind of the overview. We'll talk about the opportunity, finding properties, finding your where, making it stand out. Short-term rental investing is 3 things. It's real estate, it's hospitality, and it's e-commerce. And we're going to dive into all 3 of those. So the opportunity is Airbnb now generates more booking income than the top 5 hotel brands in the world combined. Why do we care about that? We care about that because we can participate. We can participate materially. Airbnb did over $10 billion in revenue in 2023, but their hosts, that was generated on a 15% commission from the hosts, who made collectively $66 billion in bookings. And we can very easily get in and get to be a part of that. One of the trends post-COVID, Airbnb has always been a good business. Short-term rentals has always been a good business. Post-COVID's changed a couple of things. One has changed how people travel. People are less inclined to go to the big resort. They're less inclined to sit on the big cruise ship, less inclined to stand in lines at Disney. People have fundamentally sort of shifted into some more travel pods, like, oh, our family or our couple of friends will go get a place together and have an experience something like that. The other thing that's shifted is how we work. So many more people are now working from home and realizing they don't have to work from their home, they can work from my cabin and sit in the hot tub at night or the Appalachian Trail during the day. My key thesis is finding places that are a couple hours from a major metropolitan area and maybe repurposing that. So buying a place that was traditionally just a family getaway cottage and then turning that into a full occupancy short-term rental. And there's an arbitrage in the price per square foot there. So I tend not to talk about buying at the beach because beach comparables, the rental income is typically baked in already to that price per square foot. So if we can find places, find markets where we're buying that has just been the family lake houses, you know, and buy in at $200-300 a square foot, and then put that on the short-term rental market. So yeah, we've got 10 properties. We do about $80,000 a month. We gross about $1 million on those. So finding it where, somebody asked me a little bit ago, I tend not to go to the lists, right? You probably heard there's a list of 10 best places to invest in short-term rental. I start with find your where. What do you like to do? There was some conversation earlier. I'm a city guy, I'm a country girl, what do you like to do? Where do you like to spend time? If you've got a 2-3 day weekend, do you like to ski? Do you like to mountain bike? Do you like to walk a raft? We've got some places here, but within 2-3 hours of any major metropolitan area, there exists these places, wine countries, lakes, where people like to go and get away. And that's where, and you want to pick a place that you have that you don't mind spending some time in, right? Because you're going to spend a little time there, and your energy about that cute little town is going to come through in your hospitality. So that's that hospitality part. So once we have brainstormed some ideas, this is maybe a little hard to digest. So this is a software called AirDNA. In the middle is Pittsburgh. Everything that you see that has a dark blue color, AirDNA grades these markets.
What is that?
I'll show you. Let's go to a specific group. All right, so AirDNA has a score of 1 to 100. Everything that was dark blue on that screen is above an 80. It has broken down into 4 or 5 major categories: investability, rental demand, revenue growth, seasonality, and regulation. Investability is a really key score. That is a way of looking at what the price per square foot to acquire a property is compared to what the average daily rental rate is for the property. That's probably the key metric. The other key metric is, I don't really care about revenue growth. I do care about seasonality a little bit. I'd like to see a better number there. In regulation, I think the question came, how do I find out if a market is heavily regulated? We're looking for a high number on all of these. So this particular market of regulation score of 70 is going to cause me to want to look and find out what is being regulated. The regulation can take place at the state level, it can take place at the city level, like New York City, right? We've heard these stories in Paris and San Francisco. That's you.
Thank you.
Regulation can take place at the county level. So if we have found a market, we're interested in it, and we're considering making an acquisition, we want to check at the county level what the regulations are, what is short-term rental. In my markets, it's a permanent thing, right? So we just have to get a business license, and we pay $400 a year. There's an inspection, I think, in the beginning. It's just a little bit of red tape. Yeah.
Is there a tool for finding the regulations in a given area?
The best thing to do is to start with AirDNA, and if you're seeing any kind of flag there, to call the county. The next level of that is regulation can take place at the HOA level. So there's this little neighborhood near where we invest in these properties. It's got this little lake, and it keeps popping up. My wife keeps falling in love with them, and we keep calling our agent. He's like, nope, that's in that HOA. Nope, that's in that HOA. So it can take place at an HOA level. So before making an investment, we want to make sure that we get that. Yeah.
So I guess on the HOA, have you just avoid the HOA as a whole, or do you like check
You just want to check the HOA docs to make sure that they don't have any provisions. So AirDNA is a free tool. They put up a paywall at some point, but all of these dark spots are places that have good scores. We were doing a little brainstorming before. This is also, I went to Airbnb. You see how I highlighted these different things? You can sort by different types of amenities, right? So you can look for countryside properties or lake properties or cabins or views, ski-ins, lakefronts, and these are all properties, you know, I think countryside is actually selected on that one. So we were doing a little brainstorming, you know, what are areas a couple of hours from Pittsburgh where people like to go and get away? So I'll just throw out some of these that we brainstormed. Lake Moraine, Erie, Sugar Creek, Cook's Forest, Ogilvy Park, Ohio Pile, Nemacolin, and any state park area. So my properties are very conveniently located to Shenandoah National Forest, Skyline Drive. So that's a finding your where approach.
I did have a question.
Yeah, please.
So you mentioned you feel it's best to get properties that are around 200 to 300 square foot. They would provide the most income based on what.
Price restriction.
Or not.
That's size, right?
Yeah, price.
$200 to $300 per square foot.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're buying nice properties.
Yeah.
And they're
We'll see if you admit.
yeah, they're renting out about how much?
So that's, yeah, good question. We're getting right to that point, which is the other thing that AirDNA will do for you is it gives you some numbers on the market. So it gives you average daily rate, and occupancy. So what I find is AirDNA's average daily rate is very accurate. Because I compare my own average daily rates. What you will find in any market, just about, you're gonna see this similar kind of occupancy where it's kind of like 50%, 60%. What we're gonna learn today is how to be better than average in terms of occupancy. And the occupancy is the key to success here, right? At about 50% occupancy in most markets, that's kind of your break even. And you've probably heard some of this going around in the last year and a half or so. Well, people don't use Airbnb anymore, or I don't make any money on Airbnb, or Airbnb bust, or Airbnb winter, all these negativity you're saying. No, you haven't heard that. Good, that's good. But there has been, what happened was in COVID, people rushed out, they bought places, they took pictures with their phone, they slapped it up on Airbnb, and they made it killer. They never learned the craft. And so now when the demand isn't through the roof, it's still strong, they're getting beat out by the people that did learn the craft. And you're going to be equipped with the craft today. So how does that kind of play into profits and how much does it make? This is, here's a P&L. I have an underwriting worksheet that I can send out as well. So this is, you know, your average daily rate viewed across a couple different occupancy levels, all of the costs, for example, and you can see the difference between a small change in occupancy from 87% to 95% ends up making a $2,000 net difference in your net income. So your profit is always in that last bit of anything. You know, if you've got a convenience store and you buy a case of soda, right? You gotta, you know, pay your rent, pay your employees, and your profit is always in that last bottle of soda, right? Or the last pair of jeans on the, you know, rack or whatever it is. And it's the same way in the short-term rental space. I occupy, let's see, so I run my properties, my portfolio at about 94% occupancy rate. And we'll get to that. So this this P&L I have is an underwriting worksheet that I can email to anybody. It's also, you're going to get a copy of the book. It's on page 38 of the book. But if you're a numbers person, that underwriting worksheet will help you explore different occupancy levels and explore different profitabilities. So Yes,
I do have one question, you may cover this. Still thinking about the like price per square foot.
Yeah.
Or kind of purchase price. What are your takes on buying something that's well below that and then renovating to that?
so it depends on who you ask.
Exactly, which is why I'm asking.
And I'll answer you very personally. And my wife and I joke about this all the time. We joke about it on podcasts, we joke about it when you're talking. She likes them crispy, I like them turnkey. And we like she will literally drive by a barn that's falling over and be like, oh, I could do so much with
See,
that.
that's
And I'm like, you could you? So
I'm team wife.
I'm like, oh, I get done. We're gonna change some, so we've bought all over that spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much does it change the process when you purchase instead of, some people just rent and.
Arbitrage.
Right.
So I don't teach the arbitrage piece because that's just, not that I have anything against it, it's just not my area of expertise. So I don't do it. I teach what I do. So I actually had a call, and these like coaching discovery calls, and somebody called me about that. I'm like, look, there's a great YouTube guy that teaches everything you need to know about how you go convince the landlord.
Right.
His name's Sean Radcliffe. I believe, there's a lot of people who make me cringe. He's not one of them. He does a great job teaching that that arbitrage piece. How do you go talk a landlord into, and it doesn't have to be, the thing that intrigues me about arbitrage is not necessarily like getting a condo in downtown Pittsburgh, but this can be done. Remember, use that example of like, what happens with a lot of the properties that I buy in cabins and cottages, where people buy them and have a young family, and then the kids kind of grow up and they go away to college, and dad still likes to go, for a year or two, and then mom, it's like, no, so it's something else. So arbitrage doesn't have to be, getting a landlord in a multifamily building to sign. It could be your uncle. I got this client Philip down in Wilmington, North Carolina. He found this investor who's got like 47 of these little like bungalows, and he's got an investor finance, seller finance, right? Because this investor, he just wants the monthly cash flow. So he's been selling these properties, seller finance. So you might know somebody, and as agents, you talk to a lot of people, there might be somebody that just doesn't want to deal with the property anymore. So, doesn't want to deal with long-term tenants. So you could come in and say, I'm gonna be your best tenant you've ever had. I'm gonna make this place perfect. You can sell it to me in seller financing, or you can put me on a master key lease. So, but beyond that, everything else that I'm teaching is just as applicable to arbitrage, property you don't own. It's also just as applicable to co-hosting. So I have agent clients that sat in the same kind of presentation a year ago, and now are co-hosting for like a dozen other investors. And so there might be people in this room, with a bigger KW office, like do this, it's like, who's got money and not time, and so the agents put their hands up. Who's a younger agent, has time and hungry, but just doesn't have the capital? Well, you guys get together, right? You and you could go buy together, or you could say, you know what? I'm going to be armed with this knowledge, and I can go co-host for my clients, or for other agents, or for other just Airbnb investors. So everything we're going to talk about today applies to arbitrage, and it applies to a co-hosting business. I keep saying co-hosting. Does everybody know what I mean by that? Yes, no, sort of. It's sort of like, it's new school property management. Meaning, let's say you had an apartment building with 4 units in it, you wanted to turn it into short-term rentals, but you didn't want to manage that. Instead of hiring a property management company, you hire a co-host who is versed in sort of this new age of e-commerce and short-term rental platforms. And they run all the guest communications and hospitality on behalf for a management fee. All right, so I am so the second pillar is make it pop, make it stand out. I'm a huge proponent of sole platform. You don't, hey, thank you, Mike, good job. Sole platform meaning we don't want to be on Airbnb, VRBO, bookings.com, taking direct bookings. And I liken this back to, sometimes this comes around the real estate world where you don't want to spread your reviews out over 10 different places, you want to concentrate them. You need to master one of those platforms. Doesn't matter which one. The platforms only make money when you book with them, right? So if your bookings are spread across 3 different platforms, you're never serving one master, they're serving 3. The booking platforms have to decide, it's free to list, they have to decide which order to show your property. And if your calendar is blocked 2/3 of the time because it's booked on another platform, they're just not going to show you. So we then talk about amenities. Let's see if I have good slides for this. Macro and micro amenities, decor, professional photos. As agents, you guys know this, but when you're listing a property for sale, those listing photos, only ever, what's their lifespan? 2 weeks, maybe? We're good. So those pictures are up. And those listing photos also get people to come see the property, get them in the door. In the short-term rental world, those photos are probably going to be the photos for 2 or 3 years. And they're the whole visual for getting people to book. So do not skim, don't take the photos yourself. Professional HDR photos to sell the experience and to jump off the page, right? If there's a page full of dimly lit Airbnbs and yours has great photos, so here's an example, right? So this is one of my listings. Look how bright and crisp and almost surreal that photo is, right? Those jump out, they get the clicks through. So this is one of our cabins. It's just a good example of some nice decor elements. We've got this nice macro amenity, this beautiful fireplace and the stone that goes all the way up. This place was, I bought it from a builder who just got carried away with it and got into trouble. So this was an off-market deal. I'm friends with this guy's wife, and he was going to lose this beautiful. These cabinets aren't completely hand built. Everything in this house is this door is handmade. This is a railroad spike. The other side of the door is an antler from a deer he shot in the front yard. The place is super unique. So it illustrates a few things. I like to do cabins. We like to do rustic. Cabin on the outside, crate and barrel on the inside. You'll see this sort of blue pops of velvet and things so you want to invest in decor. You're trying to create an experience that people don't have at home, try to provide amenities. It's not showing the upstairs of this table, a poker table, there's a built-in sauna, it's a big wraparound deck. So things like that people don't have at home to make it pop and stand out on Airbnb.
And that's yours?
That is one of mine.
And you rent that for $295 a night?
It depends on the night. We'll get there. Actually, that's a great segue into the third pillar, which is pricing for occupancy. We'll pin there so Airbnb, if you guys, this is maybe the most important thing. Now we're going to get into this e-commerce part. Right? We talk about real estate. We haven't got hospitality yet. This is the e-commerce part. Airbnb is a search engine. Just like it's a search engine. If you're on page 2 or 3 of Google, you're not found, right? There's this joke. Where do you hide a dead body on page 2 of Google search results? Because nobody ever goes there. Airbnb, typical guest looks at 2 or 3 properties, or 3 or 4 properties, 18 pages. You want to be on page 1. It is free to list on Airbnb. It's kind of back to but if you're on page 6 on Airbnb, page 7 on VRBO, page 8 on booking.com, you're not doing yourself any good. So that argument gets made sometimes it's free. Why wouldn't I want to list on those different platforms? It's like running free ads in the back of the middle of the newspaper. Nobody's ever seen it. So you got free ads, and you're assuming you're going to get 3 times the visibility, but you're not. You're going to get way more visibility being on page 1 of one platform. And for me, I tie that together. That's the one. So Airbnb only gets paid when you book. So keeping our occupancy high is one way in which we stay on page one. So understanding also that the other piece to that is that Airbnb wants you, what else do they care about? They care about two things. They care about making money, right? So if they show your place, does it book and do they get paid? Yes, good. Also, they care about guest satisfaction. So they do care that you are being a good host and you're getting 5-star reviews. That's it. That's what they care about. You know, sometimes you hear this, well, they don't care about me. No, I don't expect Google to care about me. I don't expect Airbnb to care about me. I know what Airbnb cares about, is making money and having happy guests. Therefore, I can align with them as a partner by treating my guests well, getting 5-star reviews, and closing and selling every night. Sometimes I say I'm at 95% occupancy, and people go, whoa, how do you do that? Think about it, guys. It's simple. Price. I can take any property, you know, you can sell any house tomorrow for $1, right? Now the trick becomes, how do we balance that? How do we balance getting the best price versus occupancy? Luckily, there's a third-party pricing tool that we use called Price Labs. Price Labs is a subscription-based software. It's like $30 a month. It's next to nothing. And what it does is, you asked the question before, is $295, you know, your price for that house. This is actually the calendar for that house. Let me answer your, what was your name again? Kim, this is the specific answer to your question. So this is that house. Okay, so this is also in October, which is kind of a peak fall leaf peeping season in my market. So it's a high part of the season. So it's as low as $327 a night and as high as $797. And this is where most Airbnb hosts go wrong. This is why most markets are at 50% occupancy. Because most hosts, and I think like 80–90% of hosts, pick a price, $295. So use that as the price. And they put it across every night. They're underpricing their weekends. So the weekends sell out at $295 instead of $797. And they're overpricing their weekdays, so they go vacant. Simple solution to that is $30 a month for Price Labs. Price Labs connects directly to Airbnb. They know what the exact, they know how many people are searching for a property in your neighborhood on any given day. And if they know that historically. So if there's a car show coming to town, or, you know, a festival, or whatever the case may be, that similar property, the first year I had it, all of a sudden this crazy week, the beginning of May, you know, it goes from $300 a night for the weekend to like $700 a night this 4-day strip. Couldn't figure it out. Finally figured it out. It's near JMU University, and it's a graduation. So I don't have to know what the holiday is. I don't have to anticipate that. Price Labs knows that searches are up 200% on a given day and turns your price up. Conversely, they know when the demand falls down, and that $295 a night now becomes $195. And this is what hosts don't do.
Can you use that tool to gauge your cash flow before you buy?
Maybe. It's outside the scope of this presentation, but there is a part 2 Price Labs called Market Dashboard that you can sort all of properties in the area. I do it by like top revenue down. And there's always the number one one's someplace you're never gonna be able to find, right? It's just one of a kind, top of the mountain, you know, 8,000 square foot, you know, just something that's so unique, you're never gonna buy that. And then number 2, and then I start going down through that list and go, okay, that's the level at which I'm looking to buy and the amenities and investment, and you can say, okay, they made, $84,000 last year. And yeah, I could get it. So yes, you can. It's kind of a hands-on approach, but yeah.
So it seems like to put the Airbnb on, is it kind of like the West Penn multi-list?
The what?
The West Penn multi-list, where you list a home, this Airbnb, you can list the rental? And how much does Airbnb take?
Airbnb takes 3% from the host and 12% from the guest.
3% of the host, that's you, the investor.
Correct.
And 12%
From the guest.
from the guest.
So they're doing your marketing, they're doing your collections, they're doing your customer support, they're payment processing, they provide you insurance. You have property insurance, but air cover on damages. They do a lot for their 3%.
Do they charge you to list on that website?
No.
That's what I wonder.
Is the price lab different? Well, I assume it is because you pay for it. How is it different than the Airbnb? Like when you host on Airbnb, you can just click.
Smart pricing?
Price. Yeah. Smart. So how is it different?
Smart pricing is like, if you haven't, caught on by now, I'm a pretty pro Airbnb guy.
Yeah.
Right? Smart pricing is universally despised by everybody I've ever, other experts, authors like myself, individual hosts, because what they're trying to do with their smart pricing is just put heads in beds. They're not really thinking about maximizing the return as an investor. The interests aren't really aligned.
Okay.
So
Fair.
people generally don't like it. So yeah, there's my, that's my portfolio occupancy. This slide's a couple months old. It's actually probably down from that a little bit now. It's maybe 92%. But like we said, you can force any property to occupancy, and I do it every day. It's price labs is reducing prices, but if I've got a vacancy, next Tuesday night, I'm discounting. It's like the discount shoe rack, right? Like off 5%, off 10%. I have to find the market and meet the market every day to get that night sold.
Is there a reason you're more pro Airbnb versus other ones?
I just think that they're winning. If you say Verbo to somebody under whatever age, I don't know that it's as well known. I think that they're winning the race. Yeah.
So I would immediately, I only stay in Airbnbs.
Same.
I go to New York City, I have one place that I stay in all the time. I don't see any of the staff, and perfect.
Yeah.
I would never even go to another platform.
There you go. There's your answer. They're winning the race, but there are places like a lot of like beach markets have been VRBO heavy for years, but I don't even know if that's an argument. Maybe you want to zig when people are zagging, right? To your point, right? You wouldn't, if you're going to the beach, you wouldn't even look up here. Okay. So it's the platform. Everything that I'm talking about here applies equally to Verbo or a different platform. Okay. So I started by saying I'm sole platform. I'm not sole Airbnb. I personally, Airbnb is where I've attached my horse. So yeah, these are our statistics. We force 90% occupancy. That means I'm getting paid. That means the platform's getting paid. It means I'm getting booking velocity on the platform. And as a host, we have very little variable cost. Sometimes I'll get into this with clients and they'll be like, well, I don't want to rent my place for less than, $120 a night. It's not worth it to me. You have zero variable costs. Your mortgage is due, you're paying your utilities. Okay, they're gonna open the front door 3 times and the refrigerator 3 times. Okay, maybe that's 18 cents in electricity. But literally you have no other variable costs. So you want it to be booked for whatever the price is, because you're gonna make that $100. You're gonna get the 5-star review. And then people will say, well, I don't wanna have a problem at a lower rate. We tend to actually have problems at higher rates more than a lower rate. The lower rate, at a bargain rate, people are happy, like, I'm gonna get this beautiful place for $89 a night, and we tend to get better reviews, when people are getting a bargain, when people are getting a discount. All right, so the next problem sometimes becomes, is this gonna take a lot of time? I don't have time for this. So we're gonna talk about automating operations. So there's another another tool called Hospitable. And this is your messaging automation platform. This is another like $19 a month tool. And it automatically responds to, there was a new booking inquiry, there's a message that goes out. It automatically responds to, there's a new reservation. So there's now a bunch of automated responses that you can customize. There's two that I really spend some time on. One is, as soon as they book, we write what we call concierge message, which is if I was coming to Pittsburgh and you weren't gonna be here, to show me around, what would be the things that you would tell me to do? Don't miss the zoo, don't miss the ice cream shop, here's great places for dinner. So this is going with your FAQ. Think about it, when you plan a trip. So you go buy your tickets, get your accommodations, you're gonna spend a week in Orlando, Florida. The next thing is, what are you gonna do when you're there? So we try to plan that for our guests, which means we're not getting questions from them, because we've already answered them. And we've kicked off that 5-star review process. And we get this all the time. Thank you so much for your recommendations. You made my life so easy. And then the other one that we do is the check-in message, which says, here's the address, here's the directions, here's the Wi-Fi code, here's the front door code, here's everything you need to know about operating a fireplace. All that happens without your intervention.
So does the AI, so one problem that we get all the time is we send them all that stuff, but then they show up at the door and they're like, what's the code?
You're like, it was in my last message, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that you will do. Actually, so we just had Hospitable on podcast 2 weeks ago. So there's two parts to this. None of this is AI that we're talking about. This is all just, they book, they get an FAQ email. So I haven't initiated it yet, but Hospitable does have an AI component called Answers. So if they're standing in the front door and they say, I'm in the front door, can't get in. You have a keyword answer for that, like door code. They type something out, door code, they get the door code answer.
Okay.
So I used to say that this comes 95% because you're gonna have, if you'd asked me that question a month ago, I'd said like, yeah, that's the kind of question where people like, what color is your blender? And you gotta answer, the blender is blue. Sorry you missed the door code, in my last message, and you have to respond. I haven't initiated it yet, but it looks pretty intriguing, this AI-powered answers function of Hospitable, where I could set up blender color, and when somebody says what color, I'm making it, ridiculous. But here's what we get. Is your grill gas or propane? Propane or charcoal, and do I need to bring it? I'm gonna light up, we have a XYZ, because we have charcoal in some and gas in others, right? So that is something that I'm gonna be, so I used to say this handles 95% of your guest interaction. I think it's gonna be more so you just get those one-off questions. And here's the thing, these are happy people. These are generally, we get engagements, we get anniversaries, birthdays, generally talking to our guests is not a bummer. So that is the automation of the experience. Sometimes I call it a bathroom business because that question is going to come to you. You've got the app on your phone. You're like, oh, okay, person left the door code. It's just that quick. We all have our phones on us all the time. The other key component to this is a housekeeper. right? You obviously don't wanna clean yourself, this is a business. Finding a good housekeeper is your most important business plan. Like that's gonna be, the person's gonna be your eyes, your ears. They can tell you when things are starting to, the sheets are starting to look bad, or you need, more of this or more of that. And an impeccably clean listing goes a long way. You walk in, the place is spotless, but there's a problem. You overlook it. You walk in, the place is not spotless, you see some hair, you see some this, then all of a sudden you find the problems. It happens all the time, both ways. So finding a good housekeeper, taking really good care of that housekeeper, not necessarily having to overpay for the housekeeper. This comes up a lot of times in coaching clients of mine, where they're like, how much, we're taking a listing live, what's your housekeeper charging? Oh, that's $150. Okay, why are you paying $150? Well, that's the going rate in the area. Your housekeeper, other than remember that P&L? Your housekeeper, other than your mortgage, is your biggest expense as a business. You're looking at $1,500. We turn 12 times. We turn 12 times a month on every property, say at $100. That's $1,200. So that's your biggest controllable expense, right? Once the mortgage is locked in. So we want a great housekeeper. We want to treat them well, but we don't necessarily want to be paying $150 for 1,000 square foot clean. So where you find housekeepers, my hack, and this is exactly what we do, and this isn't something I read somewhere else, this is a problem that we solve for ourselves. We print yard signs. Housekeeper wanted. And we put it at the base of the neighborhood. If you're investing in a place that has other Airbnbs, those are being cleaned by somebody else. And those people are always looking for properties. We put up the sign, and usually within the first, half a day, we've got 6 or 7 inquiries, and then we interview those and see who's the best fit. Now we keep all those other 6 or 7 names on file. If we didn't make a good choice for who was the best fit, or if we need a backup and that person's sick or has a surgery or something like that. There's also Upwork. There's also a service called Turno, Turno, that is a marketplace for finding cleaners. But finding a good housekeeper is absolutely key. From there, then your next team member is a handy person. If this place is 2 or 3 hours away, the doorknob falls off, or the fireplace isn't working, or things like that. It's nice to have somebody that you can pick up the phone and they can go turn a screwdriver on your behalf. And those people tend not to be hard to find. Housekeepers tend to know these people. They tend to often be married to them, or have a son or a brother or an uncle. Particularly in small markets, the hardware store is great for finding vendors like this, right? Like we're not talking about Lowe's and Home Depot. We're talking about the local, Ace Hardware, or just, Millie's hardware store. They tend to have a good bulletin board, always good at knowing who painters are, because they're coming in there buying paint. So your vendor team is very, very important to you. And monitor your reviews. Your guests will tell you what things need to be fixed, repaired, improved, what's missing. The last piece of the puzzle is optimizing for rank. Back to this example where people put up listings a couple of years ago, things were doing great, and now they don't know why they're not doing great anymore. Their bookings have fallen off. The precursor to bookings is views. The precursor to views is where you're showing up in search placement. All these people that aren't getting bookings anymore, they don't know they're on page 6. They have no idea. And that's what we call the silent. This was actually one of my properties. So this is a software called Rank Breeze. Again, it's one of these like $30 a month softwares that tracks your property and where it's showing in search results and plots it out for you. So 2024 has been an interesting year because we're coming off of that peak where our base prices were pretty high. And this is one of my, I'm the guy teaching this. This is one of my properties. You can see sort of here, it was falling into this 60th, page rank, page 4, 60th position. And this is the silent killer. If you're not monitoring this, if you don't know this, you don't know why you're not getting bookings. So Rankley monitors that, I catch it, I come in, I lower the base price from $265 to $255. I don't know if I did it here or here, probably here. And that 60th position then jumps up into 15-ish. It jumped 34 spots. So that small difference in a $10 base price was the difference between showing up on page 1 and showing up on page 4, which is the difference between 95% occupancy and 50% occupancy. So that's what we call optimizing for rank, making sure you know where you're ranking, what gets measured, gets managed, and then making adjustments to the, and it can, price is the big lever. It can be other things, such photo order or policies, adjusting, pet friendliness, things like that. But yeah, this gets measured, gets managed. This is showing one of my properties for upcoming vacancies. What position it's showing in. I might come in and do some discounting here, because it's in this 20th position to get it back on page 1. Just little things like that. So that's in summary the 4 pillars of short-term rental success: find your where, make it pop, price for occupancy, and manage and optimize for rank. That is my QR code with all my socials, my email address, podcast is on there. I've got books for everybody, and I am here to answer your questions. Yes.
When you have Airbnb or short-term rental, are you subjected to, do you have to allow a service dog or an emotional support dog?
Who's taking pictures of that?
That's nice.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Yeah.
We can both see these in.
Yes, you do.
You did, okay.
Yep, it doesn't come up that much, but I've had to do it. But we also try to be pet friendly. So our market is cabins. We did an episode on this. My wife found the statistic and said the statistic, so I won't get it exactly right. But it's something like 65% of people want to travel with their dog, and like 30% of properties are pet friendly. So there's this opportunity there, particularly in our market, we're in like national forest area, hiking is a big thing, right? It's people want to bring their pet. So what we try to do, we are not pet friendly in every one of our properties because we're just not set up for it. So that place that I showed you, it was real custom, the house that the floors are just like too soft to put there, they get destroyed. Another place, we've got a lot of, but other places we have tried to renovate for LVP. We take out carpet and put in LVP, and now we're pet friendly. We do things like my wife, and we always had like a bag, like a little bin for cozy blankets to sit on the couch. Now we have that and one with little doggy blankets. So there's steps that we can take to be pet friendly and also protect the property and the furniture and so on and so forth. And people are pretty good. We had one this week though, like the place was just covered. I don't know how to find a picture of it. It's like they shaved the dog and threw all. She literally vacuumed the couch and filled the vacuum canister. Had it twice just vacuuming the couch.
Might have been the same for her.
Okay, I wouldn't know. But it's like they shaved it, sheared a sheep and threw it.
This is a little bit different on the topic. Do you have a brand for your management company, or is your brand Airbnb? Does the customer never really see your brand?
Good question. So we do have a website. It's called Luray Cabin Life. Luray Cabin Life. And anybody who emails me, I'll email you back with to say hi, or if you want that worksheet, or my email signature line has a link to see all of our listings. I get this all the time. Where I'll do an initial coaching call and start talking to people, be like, oh no, I've already stalked your listings. I know what they look like. So we do have a website. I had it primarily to give people a one-place look, to see all the cabins. I also used to run Facebook ads to it, targeted Facebook ads, like people who were interested in Shenandoah Valley and this and that, and because it was driving more, the idea was to drive more views to my properties for search improvement. I stopped doing it because I can't prove that it worked.
Did it send them to Airbnb or?
Yes.
were you doing-
Yes, so I was running Facebook ads, and that was, $100. To get clicks to Lori Cabin Life, and all those then clicked through to my Airbnb listings. I wasn't taking any direct bookings, it was just a way of driving more traffic unfairly to my listings. So, and that's what people say, oh, I'll build a direct, this drives me crazy. People are like, build a direct booking website. Okay, fine. How are you gonna get people to that website? Where are you gonna, so you've got a content strategy, you're gonna blog weekly on topics about, whatever, Lake Morian, how are you going to create that organic search? Where are you gonna get links to your website, right? Like, people are telling you to build your own website, obviously don't understand how SEO works, right? Like, it's like you're running an ad in the middle of the yellow pages, right? So how are you gonna get people to that? Okay, fine, Google ads, Facebook ads, like, it's all very, maybe somebody here's got a great social media presence, but like, then if I had 1 million followers on Instagram, how many of those are like in my market, a 2-hour drive from my properties, right? I don't know, I don't see some of that bullshit, like, that's things that people write books and say like, oh, and start an Instagram account and, a direct booking website. Because academically it sounds sound, but practically it's not. It doesn't hurt. We've got an Instagram, we don't actually have an Instagram. We tried it. We actually, one of our first properties, like, it's got these gorgeous views. We printed up a little sign, like a hashtag, whatever the hashtag was. And it was in our messaging, like, tag us and we'll have a monthly contest and practicality.
In your, what was it called, the hospitable, again, I'm gonna go back to, do you find that better than the automated messages you can set up through Airbnb?
That is a fair question. I got started with Hospitable before Airbnb had a good automated messaging platform. So I will tell you when I don't know, I don't. I would look into, I recommend looking into it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like it's such a low cost, they, always, but could it probably be done in Airbnb?
Well, I think the upgrade to the AI, like targeted words, will be the
that
big
would be-
difference, because like I have the automated messages when somebody books, it automatically thinks booking, blah, 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 sets that 5-star thing, the day that they check in, here's what you can expect, after they check in the next morning, I'm gonna wait for the you good, and the day I check out, don't forget to leave a 5-star review, and if you have any problems, message me privately, which has greatly helped with that, but it's how do I check in?
The other-
But so the AI, I think, would be the difference.
Yeah, the other thing that would be nice to utilize AI for is taking all of your prior questions. And if there were a way to export all of those questions into AI and say, can you prepare a Q&A for me?
So a neat thing about Hospitable is they do, every 2 weeks, they do this town hall thing with their users to talk about ideas like that. So if you wanted to know how to do that. The other thing, Hospitable, Price Labs, Rank Breeze are all very approachable companies. Like, I could pick up the phone and call, either the owner or marketing manager. I've had them all on podcasts. They're all just really down to earth. That are very user, it's not like Airbnb or Google. Hospitable has something like, no, so Price Labs, this is a cool fact. We had the marketing manager on the podcast. Remember I was saying not many people, like, if you just do one thing and like use dynamic pricing. So Price Labs is by far the leader. There are others, there's Wheelhouse and Beyond Pricing, but in terms of numbers, I think the Miles at Price Labs said 14,000 customers worldwide out of like however many million hosts there are. So it's fractional on who is, I hadn't made this point, this comes up also. Helen, this all sounds great, but it sounds like this is too late. Everybody's talking about Airbnb. Everybody I know's got one, you know. Did I miss the boat? And the way that I answer that is with that, only 14,000 people in the world are using Price Labs. You know, that's a fraction. And so the opportunity to understand this e-commerce piece that we focused on today, the opportunity is there to, we call this new era of Airbnb. It's being a professional host, understanding the e-commerce piece, understanding occupancy, understanding the use of these tools that can separate you from the other 95% of people in the market. And hopefully you feel equipped with that today. I've got books for everybody. This is everything that we do. The podcast, we talked to all these people, we talked about all the things that we do. We've got stories of other agents and co-hosts and people that have, you know, pretty interesting stories of people who sat in these same chairs, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago. Aaron Hogston took a double wide trailer and she's out here in North Carolina. It's a fun story. A double wide trailer on a piece of land. They built a dirt bike track on it, took it $80,000 a year in revenue and just sold it yesterday for $1 million.
Wow.
She had $280,000 and sold for $1 million.
I did have one more question. So it seems like you have quite a few. Do you and your wife manage them on your own, or do you have someone else that manages these for
We
you?
manage them on our own,
Okay.
and it's not a big deal. It really isn't. You know, we kind of got this, I basically did it without her until we got to about 7. And then she sold the company that she had for years. And I was like, all right, now I need some help.
How many do you have?
10.
Okay.
And honestly, it's in a Monday morning, I go through when I pay our housekeepers. We do what we call a calendar review. This is sort of at scale, right? You wouldn't do this necessarily with one. But at scale, our process is Monday morning, I get up, I pay our housekeepers, and I go through our Google Docs, we use Google Docs to keep track of who cleaned what and when. I Zelle them all money, it takes 15 minutes. We take about 10 or 15 minutes, we go through our calendars and we compare our actual calendar to what we're telling our housekeepers to make sure that we didn't miss anything. That takes another 15 minutes. She usually takes 15, 30 minutes and takes the orders from we get texts from our housekeepers, you know, I'm out of Windex or I'm out of, you know, laundry detergent. We go to Amazon and ship all that stuff to them. Take a look at guest messaging. You know, most of our time is spent in dealing with contractors or making improvements, renovations, gives us the time to do this kind of stuff and the coach. Somebody asked the question before, I'm very upfront about these things. So we have all these resources. I'm gonna give you a free book. The book is on Kindle for 99 cents. All content is also on our podcast, which is free. We do coach, which means, is it Blake?
Yeah.
Blake had asked me before, like, what does that look like? So what that looks like to us usually is, I picked one of these markets, I think I wanna buy a house there. Would you be my wingman? Would you take this process with me? Would you go through the property selection, market identification, P&Ls, renovation plans, decor plans, and then take the listing live together, which means we plug in all these tools, right? Teach you how to use Price Labs and Hospitable, plug it in. We set up your Airbnb listing together, teach you how all that works, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, you're plugged into rank briefs, we look at where you're showing in search, yada, yada, yada. So basically taking you from where you are to being an expert, and that's a flat $750 package. It's not something we do. We do this for the love of what we do. We make our money on our portfolio. We just have to protect our time.
So here's my contrarian view.
Please.
I'm like, this is really bad timing for me. I'm in the process of converting Airbnbs back to long-term rentals.
Okay.
More than likely because I'm in that 85% that's, you know, falling behind now. But like, we have somebody that, you know, in-house that helps us manage them and everything, but still like, don't you find it difficult to ever have a truly relaxing Friday night? Like, there's just always something.
Occasionally, what happens to us, the only time we're really stressed about it is we have these days where we're.
Yeah.
You know, when you got one and the dishwasher breaks, the dishwasher broke. We do have days, there are moments where like the dishwasher's broken and the hot tub's green and, you know, this guy didn't show up on time. And, you know, is it a stressful hour? You know, does that happen once a week? Yeah, it does, but that's a 10, that's a, you know, but nobody said it, you know, this is a business, right? We're grossing $1 million a year. I've had other businesses grossing million, you know, we hit that first $1 million part, and I can tell you it's a whole lot more stressful.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you have properties that were doing well and aren't doing well now, you know, give me a call, let's take a look at it. It could be execution, or it could be market.
I think the main part is it's very much like a side business. So it's just like, to me, it's just like when you really look at the numbers for the additional income you're making off Airbnb versus long-term rental, it's just like, is it worth it?
Where are they downtown?
They're right around here. They're surrounding hospitals, like they're good locations.
So so there's good location, there's good location. I hate urban areas. I would never, you know, buy something in DC. You know, I have clients, I have friends that have places in DC and they struggle. So I don't ever say, I don't advocate for the beach, and I have a beach place. I have a condo in Turks and Caicos, Provinciales, Grace Bay, the world's nicest beach, repeatedly voted year after year. It grosses $100,000 a year, and it nets zero. So city can do the same thing. A trick for you might be the midterm rents. You said near a hospital.
Yeah, so that has been like one thing, we set our, I don't wanna bore it, or maybe we have a side conversation, but we set our criteria so that like for the immediate month and a half ahead of us, then we'll take 3-day bookings. But after that, we have a minimum of 15 in order to get
Yeah, you're gonna have
1
to
2 month bookings.
So you either want to focus on those short 2 to 3 day stays, or focus on the 2-3 month, you know, traveling, travel nurse type work.
Yeah, well, I'm saying we do that, but if we're not booked for a month and a half out.
I'm saying you should probably be squarely in one or those other 2 lines. And Airbnb isn't the market for the midterm. There's other platforms for finding those 3 to 6 month stays. The traveling doctors, the traveling nurses, traveling assistants. That's a whole different set of platforms. I'd be happy to have it.
Yeah, we should talk.
So, hey, if you've got business cards, pop up here, look at your book and.
There's food being delivered in approximately 6 minutes for everyone. I just got the updated ETA.
Perfect time.
6 minutes, you should be here. Yeah, the one in Brookline that I have is really.
Yeah, Alan, would you tell, so you have a property
I
now?
have two.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So I have one single family house in Southside, and that looks more consistently week after week after week. I think I'm at like a 95% off. And so that one took some adjustment to deal with the location and parties and setting criteria. And then we just opened one last year in Brooklyn that I was super nervous about, right? That's more residential areas. We came across super low. It's an up-down duplex. Up is long-term rental, down is the short-term. And that one, we do have we talk about the winter months or slow months, that has more of a lag in the winter months. January and February sucked this year, but that one was longer term, 2 weeks, a month, people that are traveling in the city to visit family. And so the net on that one is higher than the south side. raising the prices up. And we've had consistently people who are traveling for work and their employer is paying for them to stay here for a month or 2, 3 months for a construction site. And so the guy we've had in there now has been there 3 months. What we get for the top unit is $12.50 a month. This guy's here for 3 months and the gross pay on us is $85 for 3 months. Yeah. So it's all just,
And how long have you had each one of those?
we've had the south side one for 2 years, 2.5 years, and we're finally had it for just over a year. And it's so, because I'm, like, I look at where I travel, where I wanna go. Another place that I've been looking at is Pontotoning Lake. It's like borderline Ohio, PA. They have some restrictions up there as to where you can short-term rental. The problem that I run into in our market is much more affordable than the DC market or other markets. So when I'm looking at other places, it's shell shock at first before I start running numbers. I'm like, that's so much money. Because we have 30 rental properties and 2 short terms, and I know what we pay, like our margins, like our cost to get in is lower than a lot of other places. So then when I look somewhere else, right, or look at Philly or New York or Nashville, or, you know, wherever, and I'm like, that's what y'all's real estate market looks like. You're just shocked.
And that's why I always talk about trying to find these, you know, secondary markets where we're buying in the use case of, this was somebody's, you know, $200,000 getaway cabin that they use 4 times a year.
Yeah.
You know, that where we're not buying in Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Tennessee for $1 million for a cabin. There's literally cabins that, like the cabins down there, and this is how I was reality check my market. When I'm like, oh, my mortgage is expensive. I look at a similar, that property I just showed you, you know, that's $1 million cabin in Gatlinburg. It's gonna rent for $149 a night.
You would think at least that.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, I'm making the contrast.
Yeah.
In a market like Gatlinburg, like my $300,000 cabin is $1 million. And
Yeah.
instead of getting $600 a night, it's getting $150. That's why you see people like the short-term shop people, like that's all their market. I'm like, you guys think you know what you're doing, you suck. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you noticed a lot of differences as the markets become more saturated?
yeah, I mean, there's been growth in, so I had a good friend. And he got started about 2 years ago. And he's in a, you know, kind of an emerging market. And he's like, well, when I got started, there was, you know, 30 Airbnbs and all that, 40 Airbnbs. He's like, now there's 100. Like, I don't care how many people are behind me. I don't. You know what I mean? If I'm gonna be on page 1, I don't care how many people are on page 6 and 7. So, can a market get too oversaturated where you got, I don't like to see, you know, over, you know, 1,000. It's harder to stand out. So that example I have, you know, there's always gonna be this property that are just crazy and cool. You're not gonna ever be able to buy. So we say you can't build a view. Anybody else want to vote? You've already got mine. Right?
Yes.
And with that, yeah. Card, that's my email address. Yeah, I know, I just got behind on that.
Somebody's running too. You're fat.
But thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It was really informative. So when do you have the podcast?
We run every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday?
Yeah, we just.
Oh,
32 episodes.
Do you know who
For that.
Probably.
Everywhere. So there's services, so it starts with, this is a marketing. Now, this is a lot of Apple's the biggest. Yeah. Yeah, so absolutely.
Oh, yes.
So you look at it depends, you know, where you are. So, yeah, like the second level of this. Probably down, like, how much you know. In my markets, we generally have a high permit. Units like. It's not a for occupancy permit for the city, so you can't list it. As a monthly tenant, you have to be Airbnb and outside. And so that's why I own property, why can't I just sell the basement?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just want, I would make sure ahead of time, if it's like permit to be had. Okay, so it's like.
So I think you're asking if this one that you're looking at, it's not a legal apartment in the lot.
It's not a legal apartment.
It's a lease, but you think you could do Airbnb for that? Is that what you're trying to find out?
That guy has missing like.
Right, and then he's leasing to someone
And the fourth floor, he
illegally
collects cash from the guy.
in the
who's
basement.
not in the property.
And you're thinking you could do the Airbnb for
Because I own
that?
it.
Go in,
It's not that you could. Yeah, you're right.
and go in there, clean it up, make it cool, make it interesting, make it neat. But it's, you know, just think about who your target audience is gonna be, but it's nice and nice.
Last year, we were thinking about it a couple times. Before I go out for the night, I $99, so way cheaper than a hotel. I talked to staff member.
Right?
Walked away from the bar.
Yeah.
Or the Airbnb.
So JP's my son, if he thinks he wants to do this, I can help finance a little bit.
Yeah.
So what I
We love
would
it.
ask for, yeah, it's fun, we'll try it. We don't like it, we can sell it or whatever, we're fine. So I did have a question, if we hired you as a coach, you said 750. Is that just to help us get started or per Airbnb or?
So you know, my goal is to take you from where you are now to having your property that's been successful and you knowing everything should be done.
Just we don't know anything, other than what you taught us here today.
Which is a lot. But what will tend to happen, like, after that, I don't really time about it. I still have, like, it doesn't mean in 6 months from now, you'll send me an email that says, it never makes sense. I never had a situation where it's like, okay, now we're gonna go through another page. You're like, oh, you know, it is, you know. If you send me an email, like, oh, gosh, this, this came a couple that clients wanted, they just had their first situation, someone going to TV. Like, oh, what are we doing? Okay, I'm not really into coaching, like, it's not my, we know the portfolio, help you back and help people. So it's not all that formal. You're not 16 times, your 5 days is up, like, so I wanna help you guys achieve your goals.
So when we find the first one, or maybe if you get this workbox, we're looking at the second time too, and condo. So when you find your first one, then perhaps you could have this gentleman set it all up, show you how to set it all up.
I go through it, if that place is in the basement, is the bathroom in good shape, or should we put some on? Is the kitchen in good shape, or should we just replace? You got some ideas for decorating, why are we adding, gaming station? Exactly, yeah, and we're, $250.
This one we're looking at, it's in pretty good shape, there's some cosmetic things, I think that we could add too, and it would be really nice. But he thinks the rents are low, he could raise the rents. Yeah. No, we think you should fix it up and then do Airbnb in the bottom. Then the other question I wanted to ask, kind of on where the others.
And if it ends up working out, we could sort of house. I don't know, we wouldn't have, you can either house it with it, or you could just one Airbnb, and then you one tenant, then you have that second, you convert from mall to street from mall to building.
So, okay, you gave us a lot of really good information, it's been like, thank you very much. Yes.
Well, good
Oh,
luck.
I know the other question we're gonna ask you, how do you feel about Airbnb? Would you rather give it to someone for a month or 2 or 3 months?
I know, because you saw some of the numbers, nobody's gonna take my average property is, so 200, 300, 400, average, say about $8,000. Nobody's gonna pay $8,000. I can get 12 guests in there, and generate $8,000. Nobody's gonna pay someone's on it, there's some stuff. You're not gonna pay me, $8,000, $9,000. You would be dumb to do that, I would be dumb to do that.
Unless you have corporate clients.
Right, but my place is well.
Yeah. Do you have any good forms? I just, because you mentioned.
Well, before you guys got here, you were here, so I was like, hey, where, it was a rainstorm.
They do, they go to Forest, Erie, never Poland, never Poland. But the only one before we used to be able to go to the resort. Have you ever been to Never Poland?
Never heard that word before.
Oh, it's spectacular, probably one of the most beautiful places in the world. Yeah.
Dude, that's first.
But you can't go. But you can't go to the resort now. You have to be an overnight guest. Yes, and I told you that, they changed that. You have to be an overnight guest. We're actually having a new party up there, June 21st and 22nd, so summer school, it's 20,000 for 2 hours. No, it's 2,000. You're right on Friday. So
So
they
it'd be
allow.
nice to have a cool property adjacent to this expensive resort where people would stay there $600 a night instead of.
But that's what I'm saying, you're not allowed on the resort unless you're an overnight guest.
Is there a draw to the area other than the resort?
So. No, you have to be an overnight guest, you cannot go there for dinner. No, you cannot, you must be a guest now. They changed it, she didn't make it for you, she does not want anyone there that's not an overnight guest. No, it's good, they wanted to keep the locals out.
Oh, and keep a $10,000 room or something.
Exactly, and that's limited to 300 for the weekend. He's not expecting, listen, even when we registered, I said, we're not covered, we didn't know we were able to, they said. No, there is something.
Ryan Atkinson, is that in
And so, it's just one little thing that it's just a few shares. So we get through, we were like, oh, sorry. Like, we did through, and then once I
This is like, there's a fun part for You're like, we go back one night?
I'm not popping bottles here. No. So we get a shrimp for credit cards for people to stay
So here's the question. Did anybody ever finish the bucket of like? So they're gonna give out these buckets like Bud Light for instance, with this bucket of like, and it's the joke every time. You gonna do it?
Sounds like a college street.
Yeah.
Right, the important lesson here is when traveling with Alex Oliver.
Why?
It's a free stuff.
Yeah. And then you can leave it.
And you're fine.
It's out in the thing, and I said it was 10, go, we big monster. So we were like, don't leave this spot. There's not a one. Yeah, sure, go red. Go red, that's not the
Oh, yeah.
So, we're like, don't leave. So I know they don't have to big line, big shirt, stay there. Walking with your doctor shirt, you pay for it like last time. Like they're long. I called Joe, I'm like, where's it? Yeah, there's the second you walk around. What did you ever finish it?
That's why I was like,
That's like a problem with Vegas, right? It's like everybody thinks.
And then we're like,
Right.
we're fine. Great lives, and that's why I was crying. Where are you?
There was a rumor that was supposed to be there.
It is there.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
2 years commitment because of your idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of people not know about this.
I don't know if it was ever yet. It was a different energy the last year.
Yeah, it really was. It was.
Was it that everybody wanted to get out and get
No. Well, I'm not in the convention center, it's not well organized, we're not on people.
I think this is.
I'm a fan. I Like we were somewhere and this is my coach, this is one of the line, sit up, drink, one more line. I saw the line. Yeah.
It wasn't until the night before we left. He was like, you do realize when you're gambling, you can bring your drinks for free, and I was like, I did not. And like, I just started knocking, and like, it's one of the waitresses were making this dinner. She's like, did you like another? I was like, sure. I'm not gonna drink. Yeah. Yeah. That's always waiting in line to go up there at the top. So we were embarrassed, but you know. Yeah. I didn't know that, I was talking about the night. Yeah. He's right around the corner.
So actually, we're to, we got to go over there, and it was absolutely excellent. It was managed by, I mean, it was by one of the most common ways, you know. Is there a way to you buy a property? It would be, if not, like, you should have a house.
So there's different layers, so there's a couple of groups. Sort of,
I didn't even drink.
What?
I didn't even drink.
Yeah. 12 years? Yeah. I've heard it a little. So we just a good time. And so it's from there, like, so. And, yeah.
9 years today.
See, that's not, it is work. Yeah.
But, just, I agree. I spent too much.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so funny, like, we're in Vegas and we're all around like, good time, like, I'll hang out. Yeah, we're hanging out with one good friend, fun, on us still. And
Yeah.
all like assholes right out.
Seriously.
I'm good.
I just.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And in every way, so like, Matt, Ryan, I know it's great, you know, like, I watch them.
Yeah.
And I would have been trying to go back then, and as a small girl, I was like, on this stage, I'm like, watch this. I'll get two.
But then.
So. So. And I heard.
Yes.
And then I was supposed to grab a dog. And the first time you share, it's outside.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you just come over, we can have a huge yard,
Yeah.
and we can either take those, we can let them play outside or take their all the wine.
Yeah.
We drink 6 bottles.
It was like
8 hours, but.
So she did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I quit drinking. So she doesn't even remember what.
So it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know. It's not wrong.
So. But I'm still learning.
See you later. Yeah.
Yeah, so.